There's a distinct possibility we have arguably, if not the best team in Europe, close to it, with the potential talent we've got available to us to go into this tournament and win. I think the component part will be decisions that Southgate makes at key times. That moment in time when a Mancini, albeit I think he's a bit of a treacherous hound right now, leaving Italy on the lurch and going to Saudi Arabia because it suits him. But the point is that at that moment in that European Championship final, albeit it went to penalties, but Italy changed the direction in reaction to what England were doing, and we haven't seemed to have had that. Now, Southgate for me has in certain situations boxed himself into certain corners and now finds himself defending himself against arguments he wanted to run previously, that players can have their view, and now he doesn't think they should be having their view because they shouldn't be judged as politicians. But as a team, I think we're more resolute. There's more formidability about us, and I think there's a greater fear towards England. But I still think the same challenges exist, which are
key moments.
Key moments. Now, if he hasn't learned this lesson fourth time round, then for the love of God, I don't know where we're going to be. But I think I'm going to argue against my own point. I think there's something more resilient about us. There's something more classy about us as an operator. There's more expectation, but that expectation will build, and the media's attitude will slightly change. So
they have progressed.
I think there's a progression in certain respects.
They're more resilient.
But the $64 million question is, have we progressed to a point? I don't care about qualification. I don't care about the background noise. That's priced into my thinking.
It's a great feeling, qualification, incidentally.
I know, and it's something that you guys have gotten now, and you should stay and continue to get, because you've clearly got a good enough operation to be able to get past teams that are 126th in the world.
Cheers.
Who play teams like Malawi as their stable diet.
See you there.
But the point is that England now are at a point where we should be in a situation where it's really, really, really... Most countries, with the exception of Belgium, they start by doing very well in tournaments and they build up. So we build up from being semi-finals of the World Cup to the finalists of the European Championships to a reasonably commendable performance. And we were there, Jim. What happens is people rewrite history. They rewrite how things happened and they talk about circumstances. We were at that World Cup and England were poor against USA.
Oh, you were doing your nut that night.
Because they were poor.
Yeah.
And we beat sides that we could beat, and yet again we fall at the hurdle against a side that we shouldn't beat on paper, but in the game could have done. And if that has changed, then we have progressed.
Right, and tonight actually shows us if indeed you are going down that road, that gives you some... So as
Italy
we head
aren't
to
a great
the 10th,
side, are they? I mean, we've beaten Italy once already.
Italy gives you problems.
They give anybody problems because people play them in their mind's eye. Like people say, "Oh, we've got to beat the Germans." When you play the Germans are crap, and that's why we beat them in recent tournaments.
But Italy are not that.
Well, Italy aren't much better. They weren't. I mean, they huffed and puffed against Malta.
I agree.
I watched the game with a couple of Italian friends, taking great delight in the fact they weren't making headway with the Maltese, and eventually got into their stride. Yeah. And away they went.
They're not the Italian side of 2 years ago. I'll give you that.
No, they're not.
But having said that, I think they've got enough tonight to cause you problems.
Of course.
Having said all that, as we head to 10:30, let me pin you down then. On Southgate's England, where are you at with them? Do you have an overriding feeling of optimism, pessimism, or apathy?
I'm moving towards the optimistic stage. because I look at the players. I look at what we've got on this pitch. I think in Kyle Walker we've got the best right back in the world. I think in Bellingham we've got the potential of having an absolute world beater. Up top we've got Harry Kane, who's a player that can score goals. It's interesting, the other day someone did an evaluation of the goals that he's scored, and 34 of the goals that he scored have been against real B-rate opposition, but that's a different discussion. And then you look at players like Saka and you look at players like Grealish. We have an embarrassment of riches on this pitch, and we've talked about golden generations before. But ironically, in an age where there's actually more inflated egos and more self-importance, this group of players have a bit more balance than the Beckham generation, where they were too busy, all the wag culture, all that sort of stuff that was the sideshows. Doesn't feel like it's here with this group.
Yes.
So I've got more optimism.
I see where you're going with it.
I still have reservations about Southgate, and it's not because I don't like him or because I have an agenda against him. It's because I think he's had 3 cracks at the whip. I see the same mistakes. I think he's a ridiculous caricature of himself now in the media when he's trying to argue back against points that he's made previously and gone out on a limb for. But notwithstanding that, I think we're in decent nick. And so we should be.
Okay.
And so we should be.
Danny, who's listening this morning, goes with you to a large extent. Jim, it's simple. We have a golden generation of players, but they're wasted under Southgate. He's not having Gareth. You're still having Gareth, but Gareth has a lot to prove, you would say.
I think Gareth
when it comes to big decisions.
I think Gareth Southgate has done a lot of things right Do I think he's vanilla? Yeah, I do a little bit. Do I think sometimes he's the bland leading the bland? Yeah, I do. But do I think this team has the talent if he has the capacity and the bravery to let it go and go after sides and really put sides that on paper we think are a challenge to us? Make them worry about us.
I think if England win tonight and don't concede, then
I think they'll win
very
tonight.
much going in the right direction.
I think they'll win tonight.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.